Hello and welcome to the Mushroom Murder Trial podcast, an insider account of the court case and the tragic family lunch which has captivated the world. My name is Lisa. This shocking true story involves someone I know, a woman named Erin Patterson, who was convicted of murder and attempted murder. We met in 2019 when we were both active in an online true crime group. She seemed like just any other person interested in justice and the darker side of human nature. But today, her name is notorious as the sole perpetrator of one of Australia's most chilling criminal cases. Our Facebook group was dedicated to exploring another grim tale of murder, but with details of hidden pregnancies and the pursuit of the truth about a woman named Kelly Lane. While this information is insignificant compared to her triple homicide and the vicious and brutal attempted murders, it still offers a peek into the real Erin and the way the group operated. It's important to note here that Erin, and only Erin, is responsible for her crimes. There's no suggestion that anyone other than Erin had any role in this. These are my insights into her character at a specific point in time. I wasn't her bestie, and I never claimed to be. So let's go behind the scenes of the Keep Kelly Lane Behind Bars group. Please note, some of the names have been changed, purely because I like to have a life without any drama. A mix of amateur detectives, armchair psychologists, and everyday people curious about crime. What could go wrong, right? Because just a few years ago, in pre-COVID times, the woman now known as the Mushroom Killer was a key person in our group focused on Lane, the baby killer. Here we fostered a sense of rapid connection due to our shared interest and desire to get to the truth. People from our group came from a variety of backgrounds, such as social work, teaching, charity, law, stay-at-home parents, real estate, and more. As a team, we were formidable. We just couldn't keep it together because, as always, when it comes to most things involving the mushroom murderer, the truth here is hotly contested. Today we will discuss Erin and what happened from my perspective, from inside our group, as some of this came up in court. On this podcast, I'm sticking to what I know with Erin, the public information and the content I have to use. This is the story of Erin, the side of her which myself and others encountered online. At its core, our story underlines this murderer's desire for connection and how she reacts to division. When news broke of Erin's involvement in a potential triple homicide, we were all shocked. That wasn't until the screenshots and anecdotes about the mum of two started rolling into our inboxes. Because I was already aware that in the past, there was some conflict. Erin played a key role in the group, which was full of connection and later replaced by fractured friendships, an underbelly of hypervigilance, suspicion, and blurred lines between allies and adversaries. It was all happening in that group, I tell you. In fact, favour or ostracism could turn in the blink of an eye or just in one heated group post. As time went on, some of Erin's behaviour in the media reflected the woman we once knew, someone capable of sowing chaos both online and in real life. I have recently posted an episode on Erin Patterson versus the media. Link in the show notes if you'd like to listen to that. So as the days and the messages about Erin continued, I would say I was not entirely surprised that something was off. But it took time to process that the woman we casually chatted with online was being accused of something unthinkable. We met her around the time her mother, academic Heather Scudder, died from cancer. Erin said she was spending a lot of time in seaside Eden in New South Wales. It's absolutely stunning. Getting the almost $1 million house ready for sale. It was advertised as having uninterrupted water views that include the gentle curve of Ainsleys Beach, the dazzling blue of Twofold Bay. As I sat through the pre-trial hearings in the Supreme Court of Victoria, I learned there was substantial money in Erin's family, and she had received at least 2 substantial inheritances. The first Erin received was from her grandmother's estate, and Simon flew to Adelaide for a meeting about the funds. Most of the money was spent providing home loans to some of Simon's siblings and buying and selling their own properties in Western Australia and Victoria. There was at least $1.2 million in that allocation. Meanwhile, Erin would pop in and out of our group because she was busy with her 2 little kids as well as fixing up the Eden house. Our lives intersected during a storm of controversy surrounding an ABC TV documentary about the Lane murder case. At the time, Erin was consuming a lot of true crime material about this story on both online and on television. This isn't unusual. Many of us do that. Moreover, it was inside our group where we came into contact with Erin's intense interest in true crime.
The former water polo champion Kelly Lane has been jailed for at least 13 years for the murder of her newborn baby Tegan. The long-running case about a mother who claimed she'd given the child to her boyfriend just after the birth ended in the New South Wales Supreme Court a few minutes ago.
Lane had kept her pregnancy a secret from almost everyone. After giving birth, she claimed to have passed the newborn on to the baby's father, which was a lie. The police never found Tegan Lane, her baby, and the mother's inconsistent stories and actions led to her being charged and convicted with murder. She was sentenced to 18 years in prison. As well, the court heard she kept her pregnancy a secret from almost everyone. So she hid it, and several other pregnancies from a boyfriend, friends and family. Dissatisfied with, in my opinion, the curious ABC documentary on this case, we plunged into detailed discussions on the national broadcaster's Facebook page. As time went on, a few of us either left the ABC group or were booted out by the administrators, which is hilarious because no one was trolling. They just thought Lane was guilty. And the documentary, in my opinion, was promoting misinformation. To us, it was frustrating that this documentary had created a movement where journalism students were running all over Sydney looking for 1996 phone books, scouring Auburn hospital plans and quizzing random taxi drivers. I believe they were chasing a ghost. So we created our own collective, and that's where, obviously, I've said, that's where we met Erin. Now, we were looking into Lane's complex tale, and the people in that group were hilarious and razor smart. They had no time for what we saw as the ABC's smoke and mirrors. And inside our group, the screenshots reigned supreme with some. Your Honour, I have the screenshots. While this information is insignificant compared to the homicides, it still offers a peek into Erin and how we operated. One thing to note, though, is we'll be touching on Erin's multiple identities. But to negate this talk, so I'm not going to just give you trash, I promise. I'm also including some academic research on the dynamics of social media and crime to help us understand the ecosystem of our group and others like it. When it comes to Erin, it's still hard to reconcile the small-town mum we met with the accusations that followed. In retrospect, I've wondered if the line between the crimes Erin followed online and the life she was living was somehow blurred. There are many signs to her, but it's apparent that her interest in true crime, as I've said, is a driving force in her life. In particular, the story of backpacker killer Ivan Milat. The predator stalked, amongst other spots, the Hume Highway south of Sydney in the late 80s and early 90s.
Ivan Robert Marco Milat, as he was in his killing prime, the most feared predator in Australian criminal history.
So why the interest in these crimes? Many people want to research serial killers, but they don't become murderers. But I was told Erin was legitimately terrified by Milat. My friend Harper Ellis said the mushroom killer told our group quite the story. I have a vague memory of this as well. Erin was hitchhiking with her boyfriend before Simon, and they were going to Melbourne. And it was the day after Milat had abducted someone from that area. She was, quote, obsessed with him. She had all the books, including the one by the chief investigator, Clive Small. Only after the media release of those missing and then the trial of Milat did she realise how close she came to death. Many people study these types of predators. Most academic research indicates we do this because we have a desire to understand the abhorrent. I found a great explanation of the interest in serial killers by Jay and Johnson. Serial killer obsession. Researcher Ella Johnson describes this obsession as a, quote, an intellectual craving. Now remember, she must dive deep. I have been told she has an analytical mind. Craving for an explanation of violence. However, because of the murders are not rational, rational explanations are never fully satisfactory. Women find themselves moving on to the next Ted Bundy documentary to excitedly repeat the process of seeking an explanation for why angry men viciously target women. Jay and Johnson. To be honest, many people in Australia are haunted by Milat. He's the most prolific serial killer in modern Australian history. He was so spooky looking, posing with guns and his dark, dead eyes. He was arrested in 1994 and sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences plus 18 years. He died in jail in 2019. So he was still alive while Erin was telling that story. Whether it was fact or fiction, she was deeply unsettled by the thought of such a near miss with the ultimate nightmare. Australia has a small population that mostly clings to its coastline. An encounter like this with Milat is possible. For example, I worked with someone who met Kelly Lane in 2007 at a friend's baby shower. A baby shower, that's right. Kelly Lane is nothing but audacious. In retrospect, I've wondered if the line between the crimes Erin followed online and the life she was living was somehow blurred. It's not a game, but then we're talking about Erin here. And as you're probably aware, when it comes to Facebook, there's a group for almost anything. So many Facebook groups are so colourful. Nevertheless, I found an excellent explanation of these human ecosystems, and I'm not talking about our group in particular. Now, this is from the future by Sophie Kleeman. You should really join your town's local Facebook group. Where else can you track down a lost bag of pork chops? It's a peculiar phenomenon to see on Facebook. The platform is home to all kinds of popular groups for hobbies, political interests, memes, and pets. But these things are more abstract. Anyone, anywhere can pick them up. It makes them the perfect thing for the internet itself, an ill-defined blob of stuff with no borders. A place, on the one hand, where it's tangible but immovable. Place-based groups shouldn't really work online because they're not flexible ideas. And yet, compelling as these groups may be for their refreshing characteristic in a feed full of BuzzFeed tasty videos, there's also a similar reality at work. They can be absolutely deranged and unintentionally entertaining. I'm not saying our group was deranged in any way. They're like a comments section, only instead of anonymous users, it's people you have to see again at the grocery store the next day. Again, join your local group right now if you haven't. And she finishes up by saying, part of me will always recognise and appreciate the batshit crazy majesty of it all. Erin was a regular in other Australian crime forums. Her many usernames, masks behind which she could indulge her favourite interest. There are still times when my mind tells me this cannot be real. Indeed, now I'm going to talk about Shakespeare again because I've already determined that Erin is Lady Macbeth, so I'm going to talk about this. It's so crazy that here we have a true crime group and there was a murderer in it. That's absolutely nuts. What Shakespeare Academics would say it's a play within a play. It's a technique he used when characters in a play perform another play. In this case, researching one murder and then a member becoming a killer in her own separate spree. This inner performance in Shakespeare often reveals secrets, feelings, themes inside the main story. It's like holding up a mirror, adding depth and drama to the story. And we didn't need a mirror. We generated our own chaos. Yet as much as Erin gave to our group, she also took from it. She has so many Facebook accounts. Who has the time to make up so many passwords and actually remember them? Maybe the passwords were stored on the 5 hidden iPads the police detected dog found during the second raid at her house in November 2023. So according to McAfee, Facebook deleted a whopping, you ready, 27 billion fake accounts between October 17 and mid-2023. So, how did they miss Erin's? It's absolutely awkward. Come on, Zuck, do better. Now, as of late 2023, there are over 3 billion active Facebook users, which means there are around 150 million fake accounts. 150 million. At the end of the day, this beef Wellington with mushrooms tragedy was blindsiding everyone who knew Erin and the Patterson and Wilkinson families. But the police, they absolutely nailed this case and executed a flawless investigation. I don't think Erin expected the full might of the Victorian Homicide Squad breathing down her neck. But the mushroom cook is no bumbling fool. Her actions are calculated, and it's my opinion she was ahead of everyone in the beginning, planning her next move even as she executed the current one. But my friend Harper believes she's very naive and that she cannot read or anticipate the way other people will perceive things. Like most of us, Erin had multiple chats going on Facebook Messenger with several people from the true crime group. As I said, I know these people, but I have changed most of their names. But I was 1,000 kilometres away on a live feed between the Supreme Court of Victoria and my office. Meanwhile, in court, we heard a group witness, Lillian Ward, who said she was in a message group with Erin called Girl Chat. The court was told that after our main group blew up in 2020, about 18 to 20 members joined new chats. Some of these groups came up during the Supreme Court of Victoria pre-trial hearings. Lillian said to her knowledge, Erin's Facebook identities were all, quote, variations of her name. So I know of one that's called Erin. Their group chat on Messenger was a casual, friendly space for sharing updates about lives, current events, work, and navigating COVID. Erin would occasionally take breaks from the girl chat group, but at other times she was quite active. She mostly shared updates about her kids, her role as a stay-at-home mum, and her relationship with Simon, especially during the times he was unwell. According to Lillian, they chatted about cooking and recipes as a frequent topic of conversation. Erin had a particular enthusiasm for mushrooms, which came up so often it became an recurring theme. She even shared a photo of a dehydrator. Erin also loved a good cookbook. Of course she did. And she was interested in getting tips for preparing meals like beef Wellington, something a few others in the group had tackled before, even asked if she could use a cheaper cut of beef instead of the expensive fillet. Lillian said, when images of Erin's house and personal life became the subject of worldwide speculation, particularly after the tragedy made global headlines, they were all shocked. Early on, the group was trying to make sense of the news and believed it must have been a terrible mistake. But as the media's focus intensified, so did the rumours and the speculation. There were several things going on at once. At the start of August, Erin called Lillian via Messenger, deeply distressed. The call was about her children being removed from her care, and the focus was on her visit to the children's court. Her emotions were raw and the situation seemed to overwhelm her, according to Lillian. As well, Erin had gone to Monash Hospital with a woman from the group named Alison Pryor. At Monash, Miss Toko Nube, a child protection officer, met with the two women on August 14. She'd received a tip before the meeting that Simon had been deliberately poisoned. There were also allegations the lunch included death cap mushrooms. So they were onto it. Actually, I think they were onto it pretty quick, because when I was listening to the pre-trial, when the family were first in hospital at the Austin, they suspected it was the mushrooms. Plus, there was information which indicated the kids might have eaten leftovers. Moreover, Erin requested the meeting. The mushroom cook wanted to know why her kids had been removed from her custody. As well, she had concerns about them staying with their father. Miss Newbay said Erin was, quote, distressed and upset, very stressed that the kids had been already removed from her care. Erin was asking the hospital if she could address their concerns. Meanwhile, her online friends were trying to make sense of what was happening, and the conversations often reflected their confusion and stress. Once the women were contacted by the police, they stopped discussing these events and focused on their personal lives instead. From then on, Lillian said she was careful about what she shared with others. She was also part of a, quote, mushroom murder meal Facebook group, which I was as well. It wasn't affiliated with our Kelly Lane group, though. Lillian said there was a fair amount of tension within the group. And that was part one of Erin Patterson and Keep Kelly Lane Behind Bars. Thank you so much for listening today. My name is Lisa, and just a reminder, make sure you subscribe to my newsletter. It's jam-packed with news about everything to do with Erin Patterson. Now, I will also be featuring in a small piece in Stan's new documentary, premiering this Sunday, Revealed, Death Cap Murders, which investigates Erin Patterson's infamous family lunch and the triple homicide that captivated the world. They are saying it's exclusive access beyond the headlines of one of Australia's most high-profile criminal cases in recent history, where the only question is not who, what, where or how, but why. Haven't we been talking about that? So that starts on Sunday on the Stan app, and I'll be on it a little bit. And the people who are doing this are top-notch, so I recommend that you watch it. But as I said, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate everyone who's listening to the podcast and on YouTube or wherever you find us. Thank you very much. And don't forget to follow this podcast and write me a review. That would be fabulous, please. And you can also support me from $5 on Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you so much to everyone who's been so generous lately. I do appreciate it because it is a lot of work. So have a fabulous rest of the day on Friday, and I will speak to you very soon. And part 2 will be coming out after the documentary. So that sounds fabulous, doesn't it? All right, thanks. Bye.